Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry, from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
Every human has a finite number of heartbeats. I don't intend to waste any of mine running around worrying about somebody else's business.
And Dale Hummel.
Take risk now and do something bold. You won't regret it.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good morning, Ryan. It's a stormy Monday morning in Illinois.
It's not stormy here, but it's a little gloomy. And I have to drive
A little gloomy?
Oklahoma. And it'll probably be stormy the whole way. But, I mean, it's fine.
There's so much in current events this week. And I watched a little news, and it didn't take much.
No. We're
You
going
have
to
something in mind?
start with the fact that Fetterman, who has checked himself into the loony bin,
I knew
okay?
that was going to be the top.
He checked himself voluntarily into the loony bin, which, okay, good for him trying to get help. Not good for him for still, not good for him for still running for senator and getting elected, but good for him to try to get help. There are only 100 senators in the United States of America, 100. And the wife of Fetterman, who is one of the 100 senators in the United States of America, when her husband checks himself into the clinical depression clinic, loony bin, whatever you want to call it, her move is to take her kids and flee the country. We're not talking about go on a vacation. She fled the country. No. There is something way worse going on here, people. Way worse.
You're using the term fled. Do you believe she's... I don't know. I don't get it.
That's what she posted.
That she fled.
She left the country.
Well, that could be a vacation, visit relatives.
No. She said she left the country.
You think she's just that... The only thing I can come up with is she's that embarrassed.
Her technical reason is to flee the media circus because there's not reporters and all the other stuff in the UK. But, whatever. Yeah.
So it's kind of wearing on her, you think, a little bit.
My problem with this whole nonsense is when he went to get sworn in, okay? She took more pictures, posted more stuff than he did. She cropped him out of a lot of photos with Nancy Pelosi and all. It was like she was the senator, not him. And now she has fled the country with her children.
Just a great wife. Just great.
Tell you what, this is a top-notch family.
Oh, just the fact. And again, we're making light of this, but...
No, I'm not making light of it. I think she's repulsive.
No, I mean of him checking himself in. You said it's good that he's going to get help.
I do think it is good he's getting help. I do appreciate that. I think it is still just god-awful that this man knew he was not up to the job of senator and continued to run and get elected. That is on him. The fact that he has checked himself in and is trying to get help, I think that's very good. I think more people should follow his lead in that, and then we probably have less people with guns out shooting innocent people. But he wouldn't be clinically depressed if he wouldn't have continued on with his campaign and got elected senator. So, in the end, this is still on him.
It is, and I'm going to take it a step further. The people in Pennsylvania, anyone that has any common sense, any level of intelligence, would have seen exactly what you're talking about, that he is simply not fit to be in a position of senator. I'm not saying that we should discriminate against somebody that is in that situation. I don't know. I do know it was not going to work. And obviously it's gone even worse than you could expect. I assumed he'd be in there, kind of stumble through it for a few years and then go away. But he's not.
You do realize how long a senator gets elected for, right, sir?
I believe that's 6 years.
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, and maybe he would make I just assumed his staff would get him through it. Kind of like what's going on with our president right now. They kind of just get him through.
Jesus, no, you're wrong again. Because his lovely wife, Dr. Jill Biden, who's not a doctor, again, I want to bring that up, announced that he's pretty much ready to announce his run for cycle 2 to be POTUS again.
Well, I think he's all but announced, but I don't believe it's been.
No. Until it's official, he ain't announced. But Jill did tell us.
Yes,
he's pretty much ready.
And I know she wasn't. She didn't that trip, or wasn't she a little bit hesitant the way she came out with that answer? I assume she's walking that fine line. I don't know what makes it official. And then they have to follow certain guidelines. They
have to file papers.
I believe he's holding off in part because of that, and because I don't know what restrictions come along with that at that point. But in his mind, I believe, and I could be wrong, that he is going to be the next president in his mind.
Okay.
And Dr. Biden's mind, probably. And she'd have to, wouldn't you think I don't know. I would think it'd be a mess in her situation, trying to keep him from embarrassing himself.
I don't know how she does it.
She seems very coherent. I don't agree probably with her opinions.
Oh, I think she is extremely. I'm not telling you she's Einstein, but she is coherent. She knows what's going on. All this other stuff. She is actively involved in trying to keep up the facade that he is with it in full mental capacity and fit to be the president, not just for the end of his term, but for another 4 years. Yeah, she is actively involved in all this nonsense.
And for that, she is guilty.
She should go to hell. Yes.
I'm with you completely. Not going to argue her competence in terms of speaking, intelligence. I'm sure all that's fine. Probably don't agree with her opinions, but the fact that she's actively participating in this,
she should burn in hell.
Scam. Yes, we are completely together on that one.
I'll see her there. But anyway.
Would you like to brag about your Trump versus DeSantis polls?
No, look, I'm not bragging on anything. I am going to support Trump, and everyone knows that. Do I think that he has some issues and some hurdles? Absolutely. I still think at the end of the day, my primary vote is going to go to Trump simply because all these other people, just like I've said or said last week, all these other people are running on Trump policies, but they're not Trump. So why would that would be like supporting? I don't know. It's stupid to me to not support the original. Yeah, and the original. Like, it is stupid to me not to support the man that everybody else is running on his coattails when he is running. But here's the thing. I've said this before. People that vote in primaries are staunch, hardcore conservatives, liberals, rightists, leftists, whatever you want to say. And that base, that group, they are forever Trumpers. So he's going to win. And again, we're about a year away. This would be the swing of primary season right now. But there was a poll that came out yesterday that of Republican primary voters, they named 15 possible Republican primary candidates. Trump got 43% of the vote to DeSantis's 28%. DeSantis hasn't said he's run, and Dale said when I brought this up, James, he thinks that would get closer if he officially announced his run. I do. I don't think Trump has almost double the support that DeSantis does now. Will it narrow? Will it get closer? Yes. I do not think he will beat it. And I am not against Ron DeSantis. I will tell you, I think Ron DeSantis is more electable in the general election, all of those things. I am going to tell you, especially Dale, who has this deep, entrenched love affair with Ron DeSantis, even though he doesn't know all the stuff that he's done in Florida or anything about him. He just puts him up there on this pedestal like that short little man that runs Ukraine. But anyway, DeSantis wants to be president. He lays out this cycle. That is it. That is just all. And I think he would be a fine president. And I would support him if he was not running against Trump. If he beats Trump in the primaries, I will support him. If he wants to be president of the United States, he does not enter the race right now for a multitude of reasons. But the biggest reason is Trump will bloody him, dirty him, all these other things. But far more important than that to me is he will go out there, he will campaign, he will do all these things, but most importantly, he will debate. And that is where you will see the soft underbelly on what makes him tick, cringe, all these other things, get volatile, get upset, and that will be exposed for the next time he runs for president. And you don't need that. You do not need that. You do not need people to know your weaknesses and anticipate them in advance. So he just doesn't need to run.
I can agree with all of these, but I'm going to speak for myself to clarify your presumptions that you make.
Your love affair.
I am a DeSantis fan because I do believe he's more electable in general election. To be clear, if I were to just be able to choose Trump, DeSantis, who can be in the next president of the United States, I'm throwing it at Trump, and I'm not holding back for a lot of the reasons you talked about. And I'm completely there. I also agree he's going to win the primary. I agree with what type of people are voting in the primary, all of those things. And fortunately, it looks like the Democrats, if they run Joe, I think Trump has a chance. If they were to come up with a
he's
good
polling
candidate,
ahead of him. So
yeah. But if they were to come up with another candidate that I don't know who it would be.
There is another candidate.
Another good candidate.
Oh, no, but there is another candidate in the Democratic primary.
If they could run a good one, I think Trump would be in trouble in the general if they were able to put somebody up against him that had the right pieces and so forth. So with that, and again, we've talked about this. There's some things that Trump does that I don't think he should, just some comments and things like that. But I guarantee you, he is so good on policy and he's so good at sticking to it. There's not many people out there that are going to hold their ground, such as Trump does, that don't have a personality like his. Does that make sense, Ryan?
Yes.
They just won't. They just can't. They're going to cave. And I believe DeSantis is probably closer to Trump, and part of that is because he's witnessed what Trump has done and how he's held his ground. I don't think there's anybody that's going to come out there and hold their ground against the media and everybody else as strongly as Trump did and hold to his beliefs and policies as strongly as he has. And I, in my lifetime, have not seen a president with better policy than Trump. Bottom line is, my concern is he can't get elected in the general, and I would much rather have DeSantis or another Republican in the White House than any Democrat. So I guess I'm looking at the long term there, and I don't know how to play it out. I hope Joe runs. That would be the ideal. I still think Hillary's going to swoop in and claim she's saving the party and running for president. And I think we're probably okay there. Who would you rather Trump ran against, Hillary or Joe?
I don't think it matters. I think it's basically the same race, because do I think Joe may be easier to beat? Maybe because he's made such a fool of himself for 4 years. But Trump beat Hillary because America doesn't trust Hillary. That's just bottom line. And I don't think her not being there, the sins of her past are still going to be there, all this other stuff. And the biggest problem is Hillary has just a bigger problem with women as Trump does. And that's just the truth, because that's who deserted her in the last, when she was the Democratic nominee. It is women that elected Trump the first time.
It's been long enough that she's been out of the media that people maybe forgot just how crooked and how rotten she is. But Trump will remind him if he has.
Yeah, as they say, he'll make sure to remind them.
Ryan, 68% of the United States population is now concerned about what?
World War?
China, specifically.
Oh. So World War, yeah.
Yes, basically. This is great, but it took too long for the American public to wake up to this. But
I think it is all you, Dale. Concern. That is why they woke up.
Oh, I think it's all the balloon. And it seems crazy that it would take something like that to wake everybody up. But I believe the media has put it in, and when I say media, I'm talking Fox News, because I'm just not watching the other media sources other than to get an occasional opinion to see what's going on. But they're really focused on this and bringing a lot of attention to it. And I think it's resonating finally on every level. And I continue to state, we're already at war. We're just not in a conventional war. And it shocks me that we're still in the level of trade and everything economically with them And this green push, Ryan, and again, I if there's sustainable green energy that is better for that's fine. It just doesn't exist yet, and we're still a ways off. And we've talked about this, that there's no way to get away from fossil fuels in the near future. And it is in our best interest to bump up our energy production and do what we can for multitude of reasons. But if we were to go green right now, just as our wonderful President Joe would like us to, and all the car companies seem to be jumping on board heavily on the electric car deal, China controls everything at that point. They have positioned themselves to basically dominate the battery production in terms of the raw minerals needed to manufacture such. Why would we put ourselves in a position to be controlled further by China? Please explain this to me, Ryan. Please.
No, I cannot. I wish I could.
It just is ignorance, and Joe's at the head of it. Do you, Ryan? Maybe I'm being paranoid. Do you pay attention that the car companies are making a monster push to go electric?
Some of them, I would say about half, yes. And I don't understand that either. Other than maybe they want options. I don't know.
I think there's government subsidies going that way. I think that's a lot of it.
I'm just gonna tell you right now, I've never, unless I have no other option available, I will never buy an electric car. I will not. I mean,
I think I would enjoy driving one. I don't like the principle of it or anything around it. Just incredible speed, silent. Yeah, I wouldn't mind having one as a toy. And obviously I would buy a Tesla if I was going to buy one, but I'm opposed to the whole tax dollars subsidizing the car company. I'm opposed to the fact that people aren't waking up that our electric grid can't handle charging a bunch of cars. It's a train wreck in the making. But I think it'd be fun to drive. Kind of like driving a hyped up golf cart.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not going to buy one. So, I mean, there you go. But so I don't understand all of this nonsense. I don't get where they're coming from, but it is what it is, and they are pushing for it. But I think there's going to be, even with I think there's going to be just as many people like me that are not going to buy one that will. So I don't know where they go from here. Like,
I don't either. It just isn't practical enough for maybe if you live in the city and you drive 10 miles a week, maybe that works fine. But it doesn't work in my scenario, and it doesn't work in your scenario.
No,
at all.
It does not.
It would be an extra vehicle to have fun, go drive it. That would be the extent of mine. And they're way too expensive for that. I do not, I'm going to emphasize, I do not like spending money.
Let's just say tomorrow that whatever, something happened and that's all you could have. Or what? Do you know how many people can afford one of those?
No.
Like
right
a
now,
lot.
Especially.
So I don't get it.
I do not, but it's yeah. It'll be interesting, but I think we're jumping in over our head, and if we get into the mode where those car companies are geared primarily to producing electric vehicles, the grid can't handle it. It's not practical for a lot of us out there. All of a sudden, now there's a shortage of traditional vehicles. It just complicates itself and compounds onto itself into a bad place. I know we're running long. There's one more thing I want to talk about. Putin has pulled out of the nuclear treaty with the United States, the last nuclear treaty that we have. I believe the SMART treaty is what it was called. Not getting a lot of attention, and it's been coming for a while. I can't say this is all on Joe, but remember when everybody said Trump's a warmonger, he's going to get us into World War III? None of that happened because of the strength that he showed on that front. And we have not funded our defense like we should. We've probably not built up our military as we should for quite some time. Again, not just the last couple of years, but for a very long time. And if we don't become that world leader from a standpoint of domination in terms of strength and power, the world ends up just as it is right now. When we're a strong superpower in the world, I guess game face, there are less issues. So I'm a huge proponent of let's become that power again if we can. And that's the only way to calm what's going on out there. I do not believe that we will ever be in a true conventional war with somebody like China, like what you see in Ukraine. I don't think we're going to be in a war like that. And we talked about this before. What if China's little balloon dropped a bioweapon on us? That bioweapon, almost the same as COVID, yet it's a lethal side effect rather than getting us a little bit sick. And if we don't think that they can manipulate that in the lab, we're crazy. They can. The only thing holding back something like that is it could spread to them. So in my mind, and you're going to think this is conspiracy out the window, if they were wanting to attack us from a bioweapon standpoint, they're able to come in. Everything's still good. You nuke the United States, and it's that ground's not. It's a mess. I don't see that happening. I do see a bioweapon at some point if things continue to escalate out of control, but they can't do that until they have a vaccination that is going to be effective within their population that they want to live. And I don't know that China wants all their population to live. I have no idea. But my fear is we've unleashed technology there, similar to the nuclear technology that can wipe out the world so easily. All it takes is one crazy ass person. And I believe, Ryan, who do you believe is further out there on the crazy, China or Russia, in terms of their leadership right now?
I would say right now, probably still Putin. But I think he's behind Kim Jong-un because
yes.
I think there is something, I don't know if it's health-wise or he's feeling like he's getting older and yada, yada, yada. There's something pushing this whole, we're going to get Ukraine back, all this other stuff. So I think he's more of a loose cannon right now than China and Xing. But, I mean, it's tit for tat. Let's just be honest. It's close.
It is. She, I think, is more strategic, long-term. Putin and even North Korea, I think, a little more of a wild cannon. And Putin, not until he's pinned down and nothing else can happen. That is the only North Korea and or Putin or Iran. There's our nuclear threat. China would rather own the world and they don't want to destroy it with nuclear weapons. The others, if put in a position where they're going to be taken out, they would prefer everybody to be taken down with them, is my assumption. Okay, we're long. Do you want to talk about?
You forgot one thing.
I had one more on here, but it may not be what you're looking at.
Well, you brought up COVID.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're the one that
I brought up COVID. I brought up COVID as a model, a test run on how they can map out how fast it can spread, and we can alter it to be far more dangerous than what it is.
Well, you have not heard the latest news today. Another U.S. agency has sent out a report saying that the lab leak theory and the origin of COVID is what they believe happened.
Yes, I there is no other. There's no question they were working on this. I'm not saying they intentionally cut it loose or whatever, but their intentions were to develop something like this for biowarfare purposes at some point. Whether it escaped loose accidentally or not, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, but you're glossing over the fact that the Department of Energy is coming out saying they believe now that this was created in a Chinese lab. Yet and this is like the third U.S. agency that has come forward saying this now. And yet there is still, we are not making China admit, pay anything for this, but yet now 3 U.S. agencies, huge agencies, like this is a big deal that they are now, however many years later, almost 3, I guess, coming forward and saying, yes, that this was created in a lab. They're not sure whether it was intentional or a mistake, but that COVID was created in a lab in Wuhan, and that's how it got out.
No, I agree. We're not holding them accountable, even though the agencies are reporting. I guess maybe I should clarify. I've accepted that that's been it, and in my mind, you know how that works sometimes. I'm not paying attention to who's signing on or signing off to it. But you're right. How can we not try to hold them accountable? How can the world not try to hold them accountable?
Or at least just put them on notice. Say, we know this happened. I mean, and I'm not, this
in an official manner.
Right, in an official manner, yes. Like something from the freaking White House saying, look, this is what we believe. This is the facts, yada, yada, yada. But no, we won't do that. Nope.
Not happening. I have one, and we're way, way long. But that's okay today. It's that kind of day for it.
Actually, we're not any longer than we normally are. You just keep saying that.
Do you want to approach the Murdaugh trial at all?
Oh, I've tried to watch that man blubbering on that. I can't.
He's on nonstop. You can't help but see it if you turn on Fox.
That's all that was on Friday. Literally.
And he is so...
This isn't like the OJ trial. This is boring to me. And I know people that are obsessed with this, by the way. But this isn't like the OJ trial. Like the OJ trial, like, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Like, there was cool stuff happening. Okay. There were like taglines and whatever. This is just this man blubbering.
The OJ trial, it was going on while I was coaching, and we would go to take the judging team to a contest in Los Angeles at the LA County Fair. And while out there, the OJ trial was going on. And guess what one of our tour stops was? The murder scene.
Oh,
the murder scene.
Oh, cool.
It was great. But no, I'm with you. What's intriguing to me is he's obviously an attorney, trial lawyer. He understands the system.
He's going to get off.
He might. He is so meticulous about each word he uses. I mean, it's I've never seen something more calculated, and it's amazing because they have him at the murder scene that he lied about. They have him dead to rights, yet he is finding that sliver and changing his story and trying to justify it, that there is a chance that one of those jurists, one is all it's going to take, might believe him.
I mean, it only takes one.
Yeah. So that's my fear. I think the overwhelming majority sees right through it. But if one, just one, when he's making that connection with his wife and Pawpaw and admitting to guilt on the financial scene, being very open about how he stole from people and his partners and his clients and all those things, almost like he's admitting, saying he's sorry, asking for forgiveness, all of that plays pretty well, other than the fact he continues this lie. Why would he not continue to lie about the murder? It's normal. I believe he's trying to go for some, I don't know if it'd be a plea bargain or what it could even, I don't even think that's on the table. His drug addiction, in my mind, is what he's setting up, that he didn't know what he was doing. He lost control because of the Oxycodone or Oxycontin that he was taking at such high levels that he must have been confused about what happened. He used the word, I did not intentionally murder or harm. I don't remember the words, but the word intentionally came out of his mouth when asked if he murdered his wife and son. That's odd to me. Very odd.
He's a strange little man.
And there is one more good thing on the horizon.
What?
You're welcome. I'm giving you an official invitation.
Oh, my.
April 15th, maybe this April 6th and 7th. It continues for 3 days. Macon, Missouri. Lolly Brothers Exotic Animal Auction.
Why are you?
Jason and I went to this past fall. Bought some big birds, prehistoric looking birds.
Yeah.
I am the most excited about it. We had a family here from Wyoming, the Griffin family, and their father, Jim Bob, is great. He is the most enjoyable person in the world in terms of having fun and just enjoying life. So Chase is telling him about this exotic animal sale as they're looking at the kangaroo and some of the birds in the barn after looking at goats, of course. And they get back home and he's starting to think about this sale that Chase was telling him about. He is going to try to make an appearance at the sale. And if he were to show up there, and if Chase and I were to take the truck and trailer, do you know what the end result would be, Ryan?
What?
Loads of exotic animals. A trailer full.
Lovely.
It would be the most fun. The most fun. Are we ready for the main topic?
Well, no, you
or
haven't done your water boy
news?
And you haven't done your water boy duties.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you can do BTR JLA first.
Okay, I will. So, update on BTR JLA. Half of the region awards have gone out. By the time that this drops Thursday night at midnight or Friday morning or whatever, all of the 2022 BTR JLA awards, national, regional, state, for those states that got sponsored this year, state species that got sponsored, they will all have been out. All awards will be out other than the 40 jackets to the top 10 in each of the different species. They are supposed to be here by March 1. I will not be here March 1. I will be judging in Oklahoma. So hopefully when I get back, they'll be here. I don't know, but they're supposed to come first. But all the other awards will be out. I know this because on Thursday, I have an appointment at 8 a.m. to ship out the rest of the awards at the post office. Because when you ship out this mass amount like I did on Friday, you have to make an appointment. And so Thursday, they will all be out. But so that is good.
Do they bring in extra help when you make an appointment, or what's
yes,
the purpose of it?
Yes, that is.
Love it.
That is what it is. Yes.
I was unaware that you had to do that.
Yes. And I wasn't either. I've never done this before, but yes, you have to make an appointment. Friday, I did not know this, and they handled it anyway. They called in some people and got it out. But when I told them that I had to do this again, they're like, we need till Thursday. I said, well, Thursday's great because I'm judging Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's perfect. But they will be ready Thursday at 8 a.m. and they will go out. But everything but the 40 jackets that I don't have will be out as by the time you people are listening to this. Again, final results weren't ready till January 8th. We got all these awards out in less than 2 months, and there's only 28 days in February. So I'm very proud of that because I don't think y'all understand the number of awards that went out, and they all had to be packaged and addressed and all the things. So if you didn't think it was fast enough, I'm sorry, but I'm very proud that we got them out and that quickly. To our members, again, sign up to be a BTR JLA member, sanction your show. All of that can be done online. I would like to announce that Old Wood Limited, for the second year in a row, is sponsoring the All Around awards for 2023. They did it in 2022. They're doing it again in 2023. Those of you that don't know, we gave classic leather designs very large leather banners, and there was a picture of them on Facebook. Also, there was a picture of Paisley Carlson, the all-around champion, getting her banner and her disco ball trophy from T-Bow Fabrications. But this is all thanks to Old Wood Limited, one of the nation's largest manufacturers of custom wide plank flooring and other unique reclaimed building materials. Our products will turn your project into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece that will last for generations to come. Everything is made right here in America. Please visit them online at www.oldwoodltd.com, and it's OLDEWOODLTD.com to create your dream home today. We really appreciate Old Wood Limited support for the past 2 years. So thank you so much.
But thank you, Old Wood Limited. That is awesome. And there, I cannot explain. And Ryan, you get the messages how many happy kids there are across the country with that number and that volume of awards that are going out. So all good, and sponsors, please touch base. I promise it's making a difference in the show industry, and it's making kids happy. It's motivating them to become more involved and go harder at this particular thing we call the stock show world. So thank you for that. Now it's all about the water. If you have not tried Show Fresh H2O, please give it a try. The cost is minimal relative to everything else we spend in terms of getting to the show, on our show animals, all of those things. So little risk with potentially huge rewards. Hydration is a single most important factor for an animal to look 100%, and oftentimes the most overlooked. Show Fresh H2O can be found at your local supply trailer and at swampfox.com. Thank you, Show Fresh H2O, for your continued support of this podcast. And now guess who we get to thank, Ryan?
I don't know. Who?
Our listeners.
Our listeners.
It's time. Do you know what the number is?
3 million plays in less than 3 years.
Exact number.
Oh, I don't know what the exact number is.
A couple days ago, I can get it, I think, from Clifton, maybe. It's in one of our texts here. It was basically over 3 million downloads. Actually, 3,016,350 as
That
of
was on Friday, and it's not downloads. You gave me the wrong terminology.
plays.
Plays. So I look like an idiot on Facebook now. Thanks.
You did. Yeah, no, I had a lot of people say, doesn't Ryan know the difference? Doesn't he know the difference between this?
I don't.
and Clifton clarified that they're interchangeable, even though technically different. Clifton tells us people always used to download because of some iPod thing that Ryan and I never had. But most part, unless I'm getting on an airplane and I can't listen to a podcast unless I download, I usually just push play and it works. But with that, we would like to dedicate this episode to thank our listeners. I promise that it is appreciated, and it's because of you that we jump on here every week and do what we do. But Ryan, I know when I approached you with this idea in Phoenix 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, I thought there was a need for an educational, informational episode or podcast, I should say. I also knew that you and I would oftentimes end up in the same arena in terms of what we think of the stock show industry and agree on a lot of things, but our personalities and lifestyles are possibly the most contrasting we could ever come up with.
Yes.
And that may allow a little entertainment to get people to listen to the educational part. And we do agree on some of the political issues of the world. But did you think that it could grow to this point?
No, I thought you were nuts.
Yes,
I told you it wouldn't last 3 months.
You did say that, but still willing to give it a try.
Yeah, because I'll try anything. Y'all know I'm crazy.
No, and it's I guess I thought it would be popular amongst the stock show community. What I maybe missed is, and I don't know, there are no numbers that I'm aware of. I don't know how many people across this country are showing livestock at the county show, at the jackpots, I think you and I have a pretty good idea on the numbers at a state fair level or national level. And I think you know better now because of the BTR JLA, just how many people are showing more at a county show level. But I think those numbers are much larger, as apparent by the number of plays that we've had on this podcast, than maybe what most people that are involved in our industry comprehend.
No, I mean, it is kind of amazing that again, we started this basically in the middle of April, and so it'll come 3 in here in a month and a half or so. But like, I would have never thought that there would be 3 million people that wanted to hear anything I had to say, much less anything Dale had to say, because Jesus. But I mean, and I think the coolest thing is literally last year on April 15th of 2022, we had just crossed over 1.5 million plays, listens, downloads, whatever term you want to use. And here we are at the end of February of the next year, and we've already got to 3 million. So it's growing. It's getting bigger. And I just think that's really, really amazing in a whole lot of ways.
And Ryan, I still get texts or messages, and I'm sure you get a pile of them, of somebody that just discovered the podcast. They're going all the way back to episode 1 and going through those. I get those messages often, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, there was just somebody today that messaged I don't know what they messaged, but me, you, I don't know. There's like, I just started on episode 1. I'm like, oh my God. How
you can't imagine going through that many. How many hours would that be? We've got, I mean, that's a lot.
I don't even know, but I don't want them to hear episode 1.
That's a couple hundred hours.
Like, I think we should take episode 1, like the first 5 off, because
let's just remove the first 15.
Like, what y'all don't understand is when this was Dale's idea, and so this was his baby, and I went with it and whatever, all this other stuff. Like, we used to have a script, like, on what
here's
we could
kind
say,
of the outline.
Yeah, it was a script. All this nonsense.
It was more so we wouldn't have anything less over or X-rated that you might let slip out of your mouth.
Anyway, and so they were terrible. They were awful. They were god awful. And finally, Clifton was like, just let Ryan talk. It'll be fine. I was like, yeah, what he said.
And I don't believe he's had to bleep much out. I mean, once every 4 or 5 episodes, maybe you slip up where he's got to take something out. Not very many,
but
very few.
So I think we should take like the whole first 5 off at least, because woof, they were bad.
Now, we did have some interviews in there that were fairly educational, but that was not our part. That was the guest.
I'm not talking about the guest part. I'm just talking about like taking me off because I sound like the most boring idiot in the history of the world.
Well, I'm excited. And I guess maybe, and Ryan, we haven't really talked about what direction we want to take today, other than thanking our listeners and show our appreciation. I've embraced the fact that this has become a platform that hopefully gives out good information on topics that sometimes others are afraid to approach, and to give out as accurate of information as we can. I can assure you the information that Ryan and I give you, and I can speak for Ryan on this one, I absolutely know it. We're giving you what we believe. We may not always be right. That's just human errors.
Dale is never right. I am always right.
But we're giving you what we have, and not holding back, and being as transparent as we can. And a lot of this information is kind of an elephant in the room that sometimes people don't want to talk about. And I think we bring this up in a manner that it stimulates discussion and hopefully helps rectify or beat down some of those problems, and it accentuates some of the good out there in the stock show industry. So that is the hope. I know there's some listeners out there that'll message us wanting Ryan or I to fix something. We don't have that magic wand that we can just stop this from happening or stop that from happening. But what we can do is bring light to it and get those of you out there discussing it. And I promise there's so many of you out there that embrace this industry and see the good in it, that if you speak up and stand up against the things that maybe aren't perfect, that we need to make better, those things happen. But it's not Ryan and I. All we can do is bring attention to it. It's you at the ground level, in the trenches, that by masses speaking up and doing what's right is going to continue to make this industry the best junior program there is anywhere. And there's a lot of good programs out there, but this one single-handedly does more to develop youth than any other one that I've ever been associated with in any manner.
No, and again, like, I don't know how Dale came up with this, or I know what he told me he thought his idea was and all this other stuff, but it's so blown so far past that. But like, the whole thing is, in like a lot of, and there are some people that, of course, are just going to be negative, but like, I think the overwhelming reason that there have been 3 million people listen to an episode or whatever is that Dale and I are very different in a lot of ways. The one thing that we have in common is our passion for the junior livestock industry, the kids and the families that are in it. And we believe that it is just what Dale said, the best place to raise a child, the best junior program that you can have a kid in, all that other stuff. And absolutely 100,000 million% believe that with every nth and fiber of our being. But it's not perfect. And nothing in life is perfect. Dale's definitely not perfect. I'm very close. But, I mean, nothing is perfect. And for years and years and years and years and years, while it has been so great and done so many things well, no one has ever had a platform to praise all the things that it does so well and highlight those things, but also to talk about the things that need to be changed. And there are things that need to be changed. And I don't know why. Again, I will say for the 1,000th time, this is the only industry that I am aware of that is successful, does thrive as much as it does, that doesn't go with the basis that the customer is always right. And so we have just never embraced that. And yet we've continued to thrive. But there are things that need to be changed. There are blemishes in this program. And I think the thing that we have tried to do is to have a really good balance of always trying to educate, trying to highlight, but also be a topic starter or a conversation starter for change. Because if you don't change and you don't evolve, you're not always going to thrive and you're not always going to be successful. Change and evolution is just part of life. And so there are things that we are behind the eight ball on in terms of changing. And I think that's the important thing more important to me than anything else is trying to get that out there, get the families, get people talking about the things that we can do better.
Absolutely. Exactly what's happening. And I don't know that you're right. When I came to you with this idea, I didn't know what kind of impact it would have. I'm kind of like you. I just hope that it would get some traction and maybe survive, and we could get some educational information out there that I believe there's a lot of stock show families that are searching for a source of such. And it's gone way past that to exactly what you're talking about there, Ryan. And there's a lot of things that doing this podcast the past 3 years, I can reflect back on and say, wow, this is reaching much further than I thought. And some of the things are very simple. And Ryan, I'm sure we've discussed this personally, not necessarily on the podcast, but for an example, after I judge a show somewhere and I get a text message or a Facebook message from a parent that their son or daughter was excited because of a comment that I made about their abilities or their animal or something to that nature. And it's usually not a comment that was made on the microphone, but rather one of those comments when you're walking by that individual, you just stop and show them some attention. And that personal one-on-one attention, not on the microphone, but speaking to them, resonates so much stronger than I was unaware. And they're so excited that they received a compliment, and the fact that they're that much more motivated to go on and work that much harder, and they're excited enough to tell their parents, hey, such and such, or Dale or Ryan said this to me in the ring, and it really makes a difference, and that's good. And I guess, Ryan, you and I have talked about this. I don't know that we've talked about it on the podcast as much, but those of you out there judging those shows, a lot of these kids put you up on a pedestal, and you are that person that day that's going to have a pretty big impact. Just some sense of acknowledgement. And Ryan, you've talked about it. There's every individual that enters the ring, you're giving some attention to in some manner, one-on-one type attention. And you don't have time to make it long, but something needs to be there. And we see some judges that just don't. It just is what it is. And sometimes in a big show, I know we're trying to get through it. We're trying to do all these things. But I want to emphasize that hit me harder post-podcast than anything prior to that, just how much that means to some of these kids when you take just a little bit of time to give them some personal attention.
No, absolutely. And I think, I again, we don't have stats or whatever, but I would say that almost every kid goes to 5 to dozen shows a year. And when you have that one-on-one interaction, if it's nothing more than, hi, how are you doing, whatever, they feel like a person and not an entry number. And I that is important. I get told that. I don't know how many times I've been told that. Way too many to even count. And so it is important. And it is something that we all should do when we step into the ring. But yeah, big deal.
And Ryan, you make fun of me on this on occasion. And we both have probably, I'm not going to speak for you. I have. When I get on here and have had you as a partner in this journey, you have pushed me to open up a little more. I don't know that I'm overly outward about personal life and things like that, but you put me in a position that I don't really have a choice, and that has been good. And we've talked about this before. I was the most bashful, shy child on the planet. I am still would define myself as socially awkward in small groups. No, you were not. But I have difficulties. I went into the area of teaching it at the college level in part to make myself get in front of audience and become better at speaking in front of a group. And that never bothered me maybe as much, and this may sound crazy, as talking to a 2 or 3 people one-on-one. And I don't understand it, but it's there. And being able to just come out and talk about some of those things or vulnerabilities, it's good. It makes it much easier that we can do some of those things. And I think a lot of people can relate to just that and some social awkwardness. And Ryan, you have none, zero social awkwardness.
Yeah, no, not much.
So I've never had an issue speaking for the most part in front of groups, but just those small groups. So sometimes that's there. And even some of my back history and so forth, Ryan, you've been good. It's allowed me to open up just a little bit more. And I think that's all positive, all positive. I can use an example getting back on topic here on what the podcast has done. And it is sales season for us in terms of what I call the northern state fairs and jackpots and county fairs. So we have a lot of families coming through the barn to look at the animals in person. And it's common that I'll get a text from somebody driving a long distance or even flying in that their son or daughter or their kids are excited to finally get to come out and meet me, look at our goats, check out Rue, whatever it may be. But those kids that are out there that are listening to this podcast, it gets them more engaged. It gets them more involved in the fact that we are accessible, I guess, Ryan. Maybe you're at every show in the world. I'm usually here trying to sell goats and cats and cattle and those kind of things. But the fact that we can allow those kids access, I think it's a big deal to them. It's positive. I mean, you see it every time you go out to a show. It's when's the last time you went to a show and you didn't have to give out an autograph?
That's been a while.
3 years, I guess.
That's been a while.
Best guess. Yeah, exactly. And that means a lot. It really does. I'm not, I don't know about you, Ryan, but I'm still a little bit uncomfortable with those kind of situations, but it's getting much better. And if that makes that kid's day, that's all the better. All good, all positive.
I mean, again, it is overwhelming and very humbling to me that and it's not just the kids that come up that want a picture or an autograph or anything like that. It is also the people that just walk up and say, you know, we appreciate what y'all are doing. Y'all make a difference. All of those things, whether it's in person at a show or a message on Facebook, Snapchat, any of those things. And, you know, before the podcast, I was still kind of a popular judge, but I don't think I really realized the impact that you can have on an industry, the amount of change that you can affect, enact, etc. until this, because I think some of the really cool things that have happened are when, and Dale gets these more than I do, I guess, because they think he's more serious than I am, but like they'll message him in some way or contact him and say, you know, we had our county fair board meeting last night and we got this changed because we listened to you and we went about it the way y'all said, and now our county fair rules are better off or stuff like that. And I could give 1,000 examples of that. And that's when you know that you are having a positive effect on the industry. To me, that is way more impressive and means way more to me than me getting asked to judge, you know, 100 county fairs or anything else. That right there is what I think is cool. What is important is that there are people out there listening and they are trying to take what we say and make positive change for the better in their little corner of the world of the stock show nation. And that's important. And that's the big deal to me. That's when I say, what we're doing really matters. And I don't, everybody just thinks that this is easy. And I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many people come up and say, hey, I'm going to start this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have a podcast studio. And that's great. The more the merrier. Bring it on. I mean, if you want to, I'm all for it, because get after it. It is not easy to do this every single week. Again, we have a producer that has other responsibilities, other jobs, etc. Dale is a busy person. My travel schedule is insane. Plus, I have the BTR JLA, all this other stuff. And the fact that coming on now 3 years in the middle of April, every single week we have at least put out one podcast. And I would say 98% of them, both of us have been on there. There's been a few times, more times on my end probably than Dale's, that I haven't got to be here. There's been a couple of times Dale didn't get to be there, maybe once or twice. But scheduling between 3 people, making it work, all that, it's not easy to do. To come up with topics that we think will keep y'all engaged, listening, interested, all that other stuff. None of this is easy. I don't want y'all to think it is, because it's not. It's a labor of love, and we love doing it, but it's because of those reasons that we do see and we do understand that you are out there listening, you are appreciative in multiple ways, but also that it is affecting change in a positive way in this industry that we all love so much.
Perfectly stated, Ryan. And that change at the ground level. And I just had a call the other day from a superintendent that wanted to implement they're going to try it at a jackpot show first and then move it into the county show, is showing by weight versus age. Remember our age discrimination episode that we did, that was motivated a little bit by maybe people not being completely honest about the age on their paperwork. Mm-hmm. But those things are happening, and it's good. It's really, really good. And just because Ryan and I think it needs to be a one direction doesn't mean we're always going to be right. But we have been in this industry for a long time, and there are some simple things that can be done that I think make it all better. And Ryan said it so well when I get that text or that message or that phone call that, hey, it was because of your episode on such and such that we had our county fair board go and listen to that implemented that change. And that's when you come to the realization that we're reaching a very, very large segment. And I don't know about you, Ryan, but I'm guilty. And I'm going to come out and just say it. Prior to the podcast, I would go to the national shows. I would go to some of the state fairs and maybe some of the larger jackpot shows. And I almost took myself away from that county fair situations, or showing at the county fairs, or being around a lot of them. And that was unfortunate, because guess what? That's the ground roots where it all starts. And I know we have so many stories that we can make fun of our county. Everybody has county fair issues, that a crazy rule or the jealousy because we want to be the number one family at the coffee shop that just won all 3 species of the county. There's a lot of things we can pick on and make fun of about that county show, but that's kind of where it all starts. And it brings me back to my roots just a little bit, when we have so much contact now with those that are showing at that level, and those that are implementing change at that level to make it better. It's wonderful.
No, again, I'm just overwhelmed and overjoyed at the success of the podcast. But everything yes, there are facts presented on here, but a large majority of things comes from our experience, our opinions, because we've been involved in every side of this. And so some of it is just opinion, but the cool thing for me is that the listeners are taking those opinions, forming their own, but it's getting conversation started. And without all you guys that are out there listening right now and have listened to all the other ones, those things wouldn't be happening. And so we really do appreciate the fact that you tune in each week. You care about the industry like we do. You want to see things, what's going well, continue to go well, and that you also want to see things change for the better. And without the masses and the grassroots support and y'all getting out there and having those conversations amongst yourselves at your county level, at the jackpot level, at your state fairs, etc., all the way up to the major shows, nothing's going to change. Dale and I can't do it alone. It takes all of us. And so for that, eternally grateful and very, very humbled that you are out there fighting the good fight just like we are.
Absolutely. And I have one more thing while you're vulnerable right now, being very thankful and thinking about what it's done. I would like to announce, I'm going to put a Facebook post up, Ryan, on Beyond the Ring. Maybe I can get you to put it on your page. I'll put it up on the Hummel Livestock page that allows them to simply click a button and they can send in a question. And the question and answer is so popular with you, Ryan, that we can have another episode that's all question and answer. Are you in on that?
Huh.
Yes, correct.
Yay.
And please think about how you can phrase a question that will push Ryan's hot buttons. Just do it. It'll be good. So here in the near future,
so excited.
And what I'm the one that looks at most of obviously gather the questions and answers for each episode. And I get to read through quite a few of those. And it does make me realize that a lot of these are questions that we might have had in episode 9 that Ryan and I think we should go back and delete. But because it has run for such a period, there are a lot of questions that somebody that's a new listener or doesn't listen to every episode, like I'm sure most don't listen to every, that when you have a question that may have been answered, throw it back out there. It's okay. We can answer it again. We can go over that topic. And there's a lot of that. And I think as we have more episodes, there's going to be more that we have to go back and readdress. In other words, there may be something that we talked about nearly 3 years ago that we need to go back and hit again, just from the standpoint things continue to change and evolve and get better. Continue to focus on the good, continue to bring up and instigate conversation on some things that maybe need changed. So with that, Ryan, if you're good, I could move right into question and answer now.
I'm giddy.
The first one goes back to an episode. I don't keep our episodes straight very well, but it would be one when we talked about, or maybe a question and answer. I don't know. No, it's an episode. Remember when we talked about the different ways of acquiring show stock or buying show stock, online, private, et cetera? Do you remember that episode? It wasn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Brian. You had a theory, and why don't you explain your theory real quick, even before I read the question, about what on the online sales, you don't like the extended bidding, and I don't think a lot of buyers like it. The sellers,
no, I hate it. It's not.
You had a theory just to submit one. I forgot exactly how you worded it.
Because you don't listen to me. That's one of the biggest problems.
I multitasking too often.
Right. I hate the extended bidding that lasts sometimes almost as long as the sale, but for hours and hours and hours. And so my solution to this was that I don't care if you bid once or 100 times on that animal at the end of the sale, whether it's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 6 p.m., whatever, everybody that bid on that animal has the opportunity to put their max amount of what they're willing to pay for that animal in there. You have 5 minutes and you submit, whether it's $2,500 or $25,000, you submit your max amount. Whatever the second highest bid is, let's say the second highest bid, Dale was the second highest bidder when we all submitted our max amounts, and he submitted $7,500, and I put in that I'd pay $25,000 for that animal. I would pay, I said 500 more, but it could be 100 more. Anyway, an increment higher than the next highest bid. So if he did 7,500 and that auction site said it's 500 more, then I would pay $8,000 for that animal. So the seller's still getting, the max amount that someone's willing to pay other than the top bidder. And then everything's done within 10 minutes instead of 10 hours.
That is an interesting, and I get it better now that as you explained it again. It does take me. I'm slow on some things, but I understand your concept well. I believe the buyers would probably like it. The sellers would be way out on having to go down below what somebody was willing to pay. Just human nature. But no, that is a neat concept. So Brian submits a question. He listened to that closer than I did. He says, well, what if you get out bid, but then you wanted to move to a different lot and all this is happening at the same time? Let's say you don't get that lot 1, but if you're not going to purchase lot 1 because he's out of budget, you'd like to purchase, say, lot 4. It maybe takes away the opportunity to do such. That was his concern. Your thoughts on that? I don't think they want to bid on 2 of them for fear they're going to own both of them, and that doesn't fit the budget. I guess I maybe should.
Right, and you told me about this question, and again, I understand that part. Again, I think you have to make choices, and I don't think any of the auction companies are going to do this anyway, because I think they like the drama of it lasting 14 freaking hours. But
I think it's all about the end dollar amount, not
and so
the drama, the end dollar amount.
I don't know. I think they like to. I think they're cruel. I'm gonna be honest. I think they're cruel.
But as a seller, I want the sale to end sometimes. I just want it to be, let's just finish this, be done.
But I think you have to make choices. And again, maybe the best way to do it, and it would still be quicker than what we are doing, is you start with lot 1. You've got 5 minutes to turn in your bid. And then lot 1 comes up. Dale buys lot 1. So then I can move down to lot 2 or lot 3 or lot whatever. And that would still move things along faster than the multiple hours of extended bidding if you just went lot by lot by lot.
Agreed. And I think early on in online selling, there might have been lots that closed in sale order rather than all of them waiting for that one last bid type thing. And I don't remember the mechanics of it all, but I do remember some large online pig sales that might have 100 head in there, and they would start closing with lot 1, lot 2. They did something similar to that, but because it was such a large number in that sale, it still took. I mean, it was a very long process, but. No, I think there's room for innovation there. And if any of the online sites innovate, Ryan would like his royalties. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. Especially on this last thing, because I just solved that man's problem. You do it lot by lot, all the way down. So again, I want my royalties when y'all fix this. And you should fix it because it sucks.
Now, that is your opinion.
I am very adamant on that opinion.
Okay. James has a question. Dale and Ryan, I just started listening to your podcast and have started on episode 1. Should we tell them to fast forward, Ryan?
Sure.
To like 10, 15?
Yeah.
And working my way through, and I really enjoy it. My question is, we have an Angus heifer that has been called by multiple judges the best cow in the class, but then places near the bottom of the class. What are they trying to say here? As a producer, it drives me crazy to get that distinction and then play so poorly. What are your thoughts?
I think that probably in that situation, they're probably not. I don't know how any judge of any sort can go out there and say that any animal is going to be the best producer of any class, regardless of what species, whether you're saying that one's going to be the best cow, all that other stuff. I don't know how you do that. You don't have a crystal ball. So whatever. I think that if the animal is placing down towards the end of the class, that sounds like a nice thing to say. And that's probably what they're going with more than actually critiquing the individual animal. Yeah, I said it.
So my thoughts on this, and I agree with that. That's probably happening. I mean, I think each judge is going to be a little bit different about that, and I get the point that he's concerned with. There's no question. My input on this, if I'm out there sorting cattle, and I think we all kind of understand that cow-like look, the body, the soundness, maybe not perfect in their front end, just the functional traits that we want to see in a cow that's going to allow her to have some longevity, raise a calf. things that sometimes we can't predict, but we think we can. And if I have one that I think is going to be the best cow in class, guess where she's going to go, Ryan?
Probably up at the top, knowing you.
Yeah, she's going to go way up there. She may not be zipper fronted. She may not be a lot of things. Now, if she has all those plus the extras, that's great. But I do believe that sometimes when we're judging, and Ryan and I, this goes to a much larger conversation that we've talked about and maybe need to readdress, that there is a separation between the show ring and the real world in terms of how that animal is going to function or assumably function and produce. In the cattle world, I probably keep those two closer than a lot of people and want those females to have a little more to them, to be a little bigger bodied, easy fleshing, super sound, all of those things. And I'll give up just a little bit of that freak neck or maybe that real big swooping dairy belly, but hopefully avoid the dairy ass as well that comes with it and some of the bad feet and legs. So I think it's independent. I appreciate his concern and understand where he's coming at, that it just doesn't make sense. But I think it's a multitude of reasons. And part of it is the separation between here's what we want a show heifer to look like. Here's maybe the one that if we're going to take home and put into our cow herd as a breeding piece, maybe works better. And I don't know that separation should take place, but it is what it is. The next question comes from Colleen. I have been listening to your podcast for a while now. I have a question about presenting cattle in the ring. Both of you had stated that for a rear view cattle lined up side by side, it is better to have the hind legs square. When you are judging, you don't say anything to the exhibitors about this. If you believe this to be the best way to present cattle when they are lined up side by side, why don't you tell the exhibitors this? Now this is how it's put. Should exhibitors just do it with all the judges? Would they be placed lower in class for doing so? Continue the great work.
Mm-hmm.
Please address, Ryan, please.
No, I really don't think I need to.
You have no choice. We say we'll answer all the listeners' questions.
She's not going to like me at all.
Well, I'll come in and smooth it over.
No. Ma'am, whoever you are, sir. First off, evidently, you have not paid very much attention to when I judged, if you ever saw me judge. Because in showmanship, when I judge showmanship, I talk to every single individual in those classes. I go one-on-one, one by one, and tell them what they did well and what they need to improve on. And if it is in cattle showmanship and they didn't have the hind feet set up square and wide at the back, then I go through and I tell them that if that's what they need to improve on. So don't tell me what I do and do not do while I judge. It is no one's place to get on a microphone in a class and berate or belittle a kid on their showmanship. And that's what this person is telling me and you we should do.
You're taking it very personal.
I am taking it personal, and that is dumb. And I have seen it happen, and no one should do that to a kid. And how the feet are set up will be placed lower in a class. That's not going to get you placed lower in a class. In showmanship, it should, where that is being evaluated. But there are animals that have been set up perfectly that are going to place down in class. There are animals that are unruly that won't set up, that are going to place higher because they're better animals. No judge should ever go on a mic and basically tell a kid what to do in terms of showmanship in a class, because that's not what they're doing. And that's belittling a child. So no, you're right. I don't do it. I do it in showmanship where you're supposed to.
For all the listeners out there, these are the exact questions that you can submit to get Ryan fired up.
Mm-hmm.
I have to agree with Ryan on this one. And I can think of sometimes we'll be at a show and we're not judging showmanship. And I'll be the first one to admit, I'm not going to get on the microphone and tell the exhibitors to do exactly how they need to be presented. And in part, when a judge does that, and I've been on the other side of it so many times when I'm out there judging, and the first thing, Ryan, that I brings to mind, I can think of going to the West Coast to judge many years ago, and it still seems to apply today, that when we have a lamb or a goat on the brace, and I happen to walk to the other side, they're bouncing to the other side of that animal to try to brace that animal again. And we've talked about this. When I come up and want to see the front view, if I want to see the front view, I want you to get off of that animal and allow me to. But I think when you go to switch from bracing from the show side presentation to the opposite side, that animal's probably got a transition in there that it's not going to look the best. I prefer you just stay on that side. So in showmanship, I would ask some of the kids or talk to them that I would prefer you to do just this, kind of like what you're talking about in showmanship. You'll make those comments. And they said, well, the last judge we had wanted to do the other way. They said they want us to flip sides and really pay attention that we're never between our animal and the judge and things like that. I want that animal set up and looking the best it possibly can all the time. And if that means you stay bracing or keep that animal stuck, presenting the show side, that's okay, unless a judge asks you to move off of them or wants to see a front view, things like that. And I can relate this question to exactly that. If we get on the microphone and say, hey, we want to set these legs up square behind just in a regular show, the next judge may not want that. And just because Ryan and I do, again, it's our opinion. I think it's crazy not to, but that doesn't mean everybody's going to be that way. And once again, in showmanship, that's going to make a difference, in my opinion, on where those kids are going to be. And just like Ryan said, that's usually going to be brought out as a positive or a negative factor, how that was done. But that doesn't mean it's going to be the same for the next judge. And we do have to be careful. We don't want to get too negative in the microphone and belittle a showman. And that's the hot point for Ryan. And I get it. And I knew it would be. And that was part of the reason for bringing this question on, Ryan. But Colleen, so in response to your question, yeah, we do believe that. Are we going to go out there and stand in the microphone if we're not in showmanship? Probably not, but always happy to give our opinion in showmanship. But remember, it doesn't mean the next judge is going to agree with such. Does that work, Ryan?
Yeah.
I was too kind.
I'm just going to shut up because that really angers me.
I just knew it would. Well, Ryan, 3 million plays, not downloads, plays later. Thank you for being a part of this. And I know en route to Phoenix that year, we were hauling some goats out there to show, and it was a long drive. Thought about discussing this with you. Not sure if you'd jump on or not, but I thought that we had enough mutual respect for each other that you would at least entertain the idea. And for that, I thank you. And
y'all know me. I'm crazy enough. I'll try everything once.
Involved in something that's making industry change. And I this could not happen without you. No question. So greatly, greatly appreciate it. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?